Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, Can-Am Missing Project. And that is Huck L. Berry, executive producer of the show, the Big Cheese, person who demands a lot. More water, water, food, bigger helpings, call my union. It's just unending. Wants more sleep time, longer breaks. That's what she thinks of it right there. Is that right? Is that right? Look at that look. He's a good girl. Yeah, you deserve it all. You're a good girl. He's a good girl. He's a good girl. Oh, she likes that scratch on the head, yeah. Oh, he's a good girl. Yeah, he's a good girl. All right, on with the show. She demands her couple minutes of airtime every day. Yes, it never stops, folks. It never stops. I got to tell you that right now we're in a strange time up here because it's beautiful. The weather's nice and wind's blowing a little right now, but it's like 65 degrees. It's gorgeous, and we were just outside running around, and no, it's nice up here right now. Strange, but nice. Couple things. So we're coming into hiking season. Yeah, it's May. People getting out. Story came through just the other day, and it's in the St. George, Utah newspaper. St. George, if you've never been there, beautiful place. Got a couple national parks around there. This is the headline on the story. Apparent fall. Read the headlines. They're starting to pick it up because of the way they're writing the headlines. It doesn't say fall marks second death. Apparent fall marks second death at Zion National Park in less than a week. Remember the times I've told you all these times about people falling? Apparently someone's paying attention, thankfully. And it always happens when the person's alone. The investigation continues into the death of a hiker who died last week after what appears to have been an accidental fall at Zion National Park. The incident was reported last Wednesday just before 5 p.m. when an individual was found unresponsive inside the park. Life-saving measures were initiated immediately but were unsuccessful. Elizabeth Peace, communications director for the U.S. Department of the Interior, told St. George News in an email. Peace said that the case was then turned over to the Washington County Sheriff's Office for further investigation. That's baffling. Zion is a national park. National park have their own police officers, and they have their own detectives called special agents. So why is the county sheriff handling this? Washington County Sheriff Sergeant Lucas Alfred told St. George News that the detectives were dispatched about 40 minutes after the initial report to conduct a death investigation. Question: this is a serious case. Person's near death. There should be no delay. Let me read that to you again. Detectives were dispatched about 40 minutes after the initial report of a death investigation. They arrived. He said they found a 43-year-old man who was pronounced dead at the scene. Because the death was unattended. Now, this is an important point. Let's say you're in the hospital and you're getting a quadruple heart bypass, and you die during the course of surgery. Now, there's not going to be an autopsy because you died. It's considered an attended death because physicians were working on you when you died, and you entered there healthy but died during the procedure. Because the death was unattended, the body was transported to the Utah medical examiners for an autopsy. Alfred said the man, who was from Hillsborough, California, had been hiking alone in Spry Canyon area when he fell. Hillsborough, in the San Francisco Bay Area, one of the wealthiest spots in the Bay Area. Article goes on. This is considered a low-level accidental fall, meaning he did not fall very far. Unlike a fall from height of Angel's Landing, for example, Alfred said. That man was reportedly discovered by hikers who alerted authorities and began CPR. Those efforts continued for more than 30 minutes before investigators were called to the scene. He added that the man had visited the area on several occasions for rock scrambling, which involves climbing, navigating uneven rock surfaces without the use of ropes. Investigators believe rock scrambling was likely involved and may have led to an accidental fall, which is what it appears to be at this point, he said. Hold your taters. There was an incident that occurred in British Columbia. Stories in my book, Missing 411 Canada. 3 guys are walking down the trail. One of the guys says, hey, I'll meet you guys up there. They were going to meet like a couple miles up. I'm going to run up there and I'll meet you there. The guy runs ahead of the group. Doesn't meet him. He's reported missing. There's a big search. He's found miles on the other side of where he was supposed to meet in a boulder field. And they said he died from a fall. When you look at the boulder field, it was not very steep at all. It made no sense. I wrote to the search and rescue commander. He wouldn't write me back. I did it twice. They know it's unusual. They don't want to address it because they don't want to look like they don't know something. Local reports for local consumption. The incident remains under active investigation. The identity of the hiker has not been released at this time. Zion National Park rangers, along with search and rescue personnel, also responded to the scene. Oh, so park rangers did respond. The death marks the second fatal fall reported in the park in 5 days. On April 17th, a 68-year-old man from Texas died after falling when hiking Angel's Landing Fall. He was found on the north side of Angel's Landing in Zion Canyon near Big Bend, as previously reported in the St. George News. This report is based on statements from court records, police, and other responders and may not contain the full scope of the hearing. All right. That Angel's Landing, that is a steep area. That case that they were reporting on where the man was scrambling on rocks and fell, that dog don't hunt. No listing on the cause of death. Always happens when they're alone. Yes. No witnesses. Yes. Unfortunately, my guess is there's not going to be a release on the cause of death because the coroner has to look and say, well, if I'm standing up and I'm 6 feet tall and I fall backwards, could I fracture my skull on a rock? Well, sure you could. Chances are you won't. I mean, if the rock had a big point in it and you fell right on that point on the back of your head, sure, it's possible. Not very likely. The human body's made and the head is made to withstand falls from that elevation. Now, it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's not normal. Just like the case in British Columbia, like I was telling you about, where this guy disappears and he's found in this rock field dead. They tried to convince the public that he was on this rock field and fell, and like it was a lengthy fall. No, he fell the length of his body. He was a young man. That's still one of the most peculiar cases I've ever looked into. So, the case today. That's a tough one. Involves a man named Tim Perryman, 53 years old. This is Tim. Missing March 28th, 2004 at 2 p.m. NABS case number MP3065 in Agoura Hills, California. NABS. What is NABS? The National Receptacle at the National Institute of Justice for all DNA from missing people. Yes. So if someone's missing, law enforcement or NABS investigators will go out and collect DNA from the family, get it categorized, put it on their database. And if somebody finds a body or remains in a certain area, they can go to NABS and they can scan the DNA results to see if there's a match. It's a very valuable service. They found a lot of people through it. It is extremely good. NABS also confirms that the person is missing. This person is still missing. Now, they lived in the 29100 block of Garden Oaks Court in Agoura Hills. Now, here's the Pacific Ocean. Here's Santa Monica, California. Here's LAX, LA International Airport. They lived right there. Westlake Village, Thousand Oaks, Hidden Hills, Encino, Van Nuys, North Hollywood. It's about, from here to here, it's about 10 to 12 miles. I've been through these mountains many times. There's a lot of cool dirt roads in there. It's dry in the summer and very hot. He was there in March. Would have been the perfect time to do some hiking. Just saying. Now, he's married, 2 sons. He was a Boy Scout leader for 18 years. And by all accounts, he was really good at it. He was a business analyst with a master's degree, but unemployed at this time. Now, Tim had some serious medical issues. He had chronic heart disease, urinary tract issues, kidney problems, and he was undergoing biopsies for prostate cancer. He was taking a multiple amount of meds. Why is this important? Many of the cases I write about, people have significant medical issues. If you looked at him, you would not know it. If you looked at Tim, you probably wouldn't have known it. Now, on March 28th at about 2 p.m., some neighbors see him just walking down the street from his house. Nothing unusual, nobody else around, just looked like he's going out for a walk. Subsequent to the story coming out, his sons and his wife said that he did sometimes go into those Santa Monica mountains, hiking just to clear his head. Friends, trust me, I've done that 100 times. To me, being out in nature, having no public noise around me, except hawk barking, that is peace. And my mind can get clear. And I'm sure Tim had the same thing when he did that. Now, wife comes home, realizes he's not there, and by the end of that night, his car's there. She starts looking around, and she finds his wallet, his cell phone, inside of his wallet, a social security card, all of his meds, credit cards. But the one thing he took was his driver's license. Think about that. Never threatened suicide. There were times when he was depressed. His kids said he was always a fighter. He would never take his life. Now, when articles about missing people come up and they hammer home the point, he was depressed or he had depression, whatever. Hey, there were times in my life people could say that about me. And if I had disappeared, it wasn't because I was going to kill myself. Remember, local reports for local consumption. His personality, described by family and friends as a very kind man, very methodical, and a good teacher. Well, yeah, You had to be pretty good at teaching if you did that amount of time with the Scouts, right? Well, soon after he went missing, the deputies brought in ground searchers. They brought in a helicopter. Canines ran that area where they thought he'd go walking. Nothing. They couldn't even pick up his scent going down the road. Well, 3-day search found nothing, and they gave it up. He went into the file for the LA County Sheriff's as a missing person. In April 2004, just a month later, not even a month later, a little bit less, 15 days, a volunteer group heard about the need of this family and came in with 200 searchers. That's a lot. It was called the California Emergency Mobile Patrol. They were one of the organizers. They set people into grids. They brought in ATVs. They brought 3 search and rescue dogs. They tried to pick up a scent. Cadaver dogs couldn't pick up a scent. They also distributed 4,500 flyers throughout the valley, San Fernando Valley, hoping that someone would see Tim, someone would call the family, someone would call the police. They weren't sure what was happening. He had never done this before. The family said, totally out of character. The location is on the north side of the Santa Monica Mountains. Again, in the summer it can get really hot there. But March was perfect to take a hike. If that's what Tim was doing, I get it. I would have done the same thing. You can drive the dirt roads amongst these mountains in a lot of location. Not a lot of traffic. Years ago, there was a case in these mountains a little further west, and I drove it trying to see if I could understand what happened with the case. That's when I was living in California. I'm driving on one of these very rural dirt roads, and there's a small stream, maybe 6 feet wide and a foot deep, that crosses the road in this one area. Kind of a pretty spot. And I slow down, and I see something in the road in front of me, about this big. I said, what is that? I stop, and there's nobody on the road. I stop my truck, get out, walk up to it. It's a giant turtle. Oh, he was fine. He was right down near the water, but in the middle of the road. So I'm going to guess this turtle probably weighed 20 pounds. I picked him up, put him about 20 feet off the road next to the little creek. He kept looking at me like, who are you? What are you? Are you going to eat me? No, I'm here to help you. Put him down. That was my kindness good deed for that day. But just seeing something out there like that, it was kind of cool. Well, once Tim left, he was on disability payments from the state, and that was helping subsidize the family. But once he left, those payments stopped. Family was pretty destitute. In July, we talk about kindness. Pay attention. In July 2004, a woman named Judy Hodgson was the owner of a company called Lamppost Pizza right in the area. She heard about Pam and the boys, and she goes, I'm going to do a fundraiser for you guys. Every large pizza that I sell, $5 from that large pizza, everyone for a month is going to go to you. She raised several $1,000. Helped the family immensely. Out of the goodness of her heart, because she read about it in the newspaper. Oh, and there were a lot of articles about this. A huge kindness gesture from a local business. And why? Because the family had been victimized at no fault of their own. They had 2 young boys. One of them was on his way to college, hoping to go to a school in Utah, and he couldn't go because the family had no money now. Everything changed. So I've explained this before, but this is important. how to set your family up for success. When someone goes missing, the law doesn't look at that like they're dead. So let's say the home is in your house, that house is in your name, and you go missing. Your spouse can't sell that house because it's in your name and you're not deceased. If that goes through probate, in order to get to her and the family or him and the family, you're going to lose a lot of money in probate. So many years ago, an attorney explained this to me, that if you have a family, you need, especially if you're in California or a high tax state, you need to put that house in a trust because it avoids probate and transfer fees. A trust, it could be in the family's name, it could be any name you want, but when it sells or when you die, either party can handle it if you're not around. The husband or the wife can handle it, you don't even have to be dead. Same with cars and homes, they can all be in the homes, cars, expensive items can all be inside that trust. And all can be transferable within that trust. Most family attorneys can do a trust. And if you have a young family, I would urgently tell you to do that. Save your spouse a lot of headache if something happens to you, if you die, if you go missing, whatever. Now, months after Tim disappeared, the struggles even got worse, if you can believe this. Pamela, the wife, didn't have any money to pay the mortgage payments. She was doing everything she could to keep the home. And this is so weird, you guys. Tim had a life insurance policy. Because he wasn't declared deceased, they wouldn't pay off on the policy. So what did Pam have to do? She had to keep making the policy payments. Insane. Where did she get the money? She said she was selling things inside of her home just to get by, keep the boys fed, and to keep that policy alive, and to keep her mortgage alive. Insane. No, she did the right thing, for sure. And on top of all of this, Pamela had major medical issues. She has Crohn's disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and she was undergoing chemotherapy. And she couldn't collect on any state and federal benefits because Tim wasn't dead. And if you can believe this, just prior to Tim disappearing, their house flooded. They had a break in the plumbing, linoleum, carpet, everything was ruined. It's like a shadow hit that house and destroyed that family in a matter of months. Pamela and the boys were interviewed in several articles about Tim. And they were convinced that he wouldn't take his life. He was too strong of a person. So they went to some psychics. First psychic told the family that Tim took his own life and he's out there in the ocean. Then they went to a tarot card reader. She said he's alive and well, but couldn't give them any definitive areas where to look. They eventually went to a second tarot card reader, said he's deceased and he's the victim of foul play. The family asked LA County if they would do more searches for Tim, and they said no. Now here's an interesting statistic that was in one of those articles I read about Tim. Every year in just LA County, 2,500 people are reported missing. In their next breath, they said nearly all of those people are eventually found and returned. This is why I tell you, when you hear missing person statistics, let it go right in one ear and right out the other. is such a very small, minute number that are really unusual. Pam looked into trying to sell the home, and she couldn't because it was in Tim's name. Now, Steve Perryman, the son, one of the sons, had been involved in the Boy Scouts when his dad was a leader, and one thing that his dad taught him and the other scouts is never quit. He said it was totally out of his dad's character ever to quit. He never wanted to give up. June 5th, 2004. They were very destitute, very needy. Another group sees the position they're in life. Now, if there was a group out here like this, I would join this group. Listen to this. It was a group that got together of churches of different denominations, charities, but they were all Christians, and they get together for one weekend every year. Before that weekend, in the months prior, they look at different families, their position in life, their need, and if they have the expertise to help them. Well, they looked at the Perrymans and they said, well, they need a carpet installed, they need linoleum installed, their garden needs to be fixed, they need some grass in their front yard, they need their plumbing repaired. We could do all those things. So what does that group do? They go out and they spend their whole weekend working on the Perryman's house and fix it up. Wow. Friends, that is kindness defined. People in need, people who can help, people execute. Awesome. Awesome. March 2005, a year later. 0 new clues. Nobody had seen him. Nobody heard from him. His bank accounts were never touched. And then what Pam did next was pretty smart. Tim was a patriot. He never missed voting in an election. He thought voting is an important thing you all have to do. Well, there was an election that previous year. And Pam said, if he's ever going to show up anywhere, it's going to be at that election. So she parked outside the precinct house, sat there all day, waiting for her husband to come in and vote. He didn't show up. She checked with the precinct workers at the end of the day. Nobody voted for him. But friends, that's a compassionate, strong-willed lady that really needed closure. Find her husband. She said every night she wishes he would just walk in the door and give her a hug. So I was doing the workup on this case. And I was laying in bed last night thinking, what happened here? What happened? Two things that I really think are possibilities. He and his wife are in poor health. Pam said that the day he disappeared, they had some kind of minor argument in the morning. She goes, that was nothing huge. Well, maybe he hiked out to take his life. He didn't have a weapon. People said he had nothing in his hands. But is that in his personality? Everyone who knew him said no. Well, he left the area. He left everything behind but one thing. What was that? His driver's license. Story out of Colorado. That's when I was living there. Deputies are looking in a remote area of Colorado, real remote. Cars parked there, a hunter didn't come back to his car. Deputies are searching, and in this one canyon, they find this long, thin bag that's zipped up that they can't see through it. Later on, they said we should have recognized it. It was a body bag. It was in amongst some bushes and rocks, and they had to dig it out. And it was somebody that had been there for, they guessed, 15, 20 years. They had shot themselves in that body bag, didn't want anybody to mess with it, died there in the body bag. And do you know what was laying on top of the bones? The driver's license of the victim, so that they didn't have to figure out who he was. When I thought about Tim's case, there was only two possibilities with that driver's license. One of them was something like that. He walked off into the woods, took his life, maybe found a place that people wouldn't find him real quick, but so the police would know at least who they found, he'd have his driver's license on him. Except that area isn't conducive to something like that, like Colorado is. Too many people, too many open areas. I don't believe that one, but that was a possibility. Possibility number two. What's one thing you need a driver's license for if you're going to leave the area? To fly commercially. Now, I looked real hard at about 20 articles about this case, and the deputies never said that they checked outbound flights for somebody with his name that took him. I think that's disappointing. They should have. That would have at least cleared that option out of my mind. So another option is he walked into the hills, became injured, died, and cadaver dogs should have picked up the scent, but didn't. Now, what his boys and Pam said they think happened is that he hiked into the woods and something happened, like a snake bite. Those hills out there in Santa Monica, oh yeah, they have rattlesnakes. And oh yeah, they're deadly. And if you're alone, you don't have your cell phone, you're not going to walk out a couple miles without being in really bad shape. And if you're allergic to the venom in a snake bite, you're not going to make it 100 yards, you're going to be dead. So, could that happen? Sure, it could happen. But they should have found his body. Where's the body? And that's why this makes this case unusual. Canines brought to the scene never picked up a scent trail, even though people saw him walking down that street. Where'd he go? Yeah, I want to know too. So, again, a nice man. Really nice man. Tim Perryman. Missing March 28, 2004, Agoura Hills, California. 53 years old. Friends, I gave you an example today of kindness. Multiple times. The pizza owner, the Christians that came and fixed their house. That's awesome. That is awesome. And we can all do that in a small way. Every time you see somebody who's doing you a service, be extra nice, extra friendly, because you really never know how bad off somebody is in their heart. Remember, if you're unsubscribed, subscribe right now to the channel. We have suffered a devastating loss of 60% of our viewers overnight. Impossible. It's impossible. Not everybody could check out that quick. The amount of comments, they're the same. But the amount of views I'm getting credit for, not the same. And I've gotten hundreds of people tell me, hey Dave, how come I'm not getting notified that you're posting videos? Yeah. Well, thank you. Check out our new website, missing411.com. Do not buy my books on Amazon. You're going to get ripped off. They're $150 to $200 there. $25 at missing411.com. DVDs, Blu-rays, posters, movie posters, You buy one? You want it signed? Tell me, I'll sign it for you. That's right. How many people, how many executive producers of documentaries and writers will do that? I will, for you. You know why? Because you guys are great people. You put up great comments, and you are appreciated. Paulides out.